And our sponsors once again for another episode of State of Our Football Nation, Global Institute of Sport, who do some tremendous things and provide master's degree in football. Did you know you can get a master's degree in football, Pokuah?
I did not, George, but I might have to think about it now.
You know, Lockie Flanagan, someone who preceded you, is off to get one, I reckon. I can feel it in my bones. And by the way, welcome to Pokuah Frimpong, who's my new co-anchor on State of Our Football Nation on FNR, and who has a tremendous opportunity for the rest of the Liberty League, A-League women's season to have some real fun. You've been out there calling some games for the APL?
I have, George. It's been a lot of fun.
You saw a thriller on the weekend.
I did see. I didn't call this game on the weekend, but I did see the victory game, and I also saw the City game on Saturday. It was a great weekend of A-League women's football.
So there was nothing you missed out on.
No, there wasn't.
You covered all the bases.
No, but I had to go home and I had to check out the Perth Glory match because that was a good that was a good comeback from Perth Glory. So that was good.
Well, Perth Glory is starting to make some inroads now after what has been the most shocking season of their I think their history. Last year would have been just about as bad as it gets. And Tony Sage, their chair and their owner, does not like coming off second at any time. No. So you can imagine getting some good results coming through and seeing the tide turning is so important. And speaking of the tide turning, what a week we've had since our last episode on Football Nation Radio. I used to think that a week was a long time in politics. Oh, my God. I have to amend it now. What has not happened in the last week between you and I? We've seen quite possibly the greatest football game played in the history of the World Cup.
Yep.
We've seen a superb footballer, a sublime footballer, just refused to come off second. I'm talking about the great Lionel Messi. Congratulations, Argentina. Cuti, the Cristiano Romero, who plays for Tottenham.
You're very happy, Tottenham. You're very Tottenham.
Oh, I'm beaming. The only thing, I was hoping when the game finished 3-3, the final, and I thought, it's got to go. Isn't that fantastic? I've got a chance now to win a World Cup. It's going to be either Hugo Lloris or it's going to be, Cristiano Romero, and it was the Argentinian. But both were superb. What a great tournament. Oh, look.
Because the first 45...
The better you write it, the more zany it got.
Oh, because the first 45 minutes was truly such tactical wonders from Argentina, because France could not get out. There's so many times they tried to get out on that left-hand side, and Argentina was like, nope, we are getting that ball back, and it was tremendous. But Kylian Mbappe, wow, what a player, and what records he's going to smash, George, in his career. Someone's
just done a comparison of Lionel Messi at 23 and Kylian Mbappe at 23, and Mbappe's ahead, which is pretty scary.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is we saw a legend, come to another level. He refused to fail. He refused to let go. And his contribution was throughout.
Yeah.
And the other thing we cannot discount, he scored a goal in every round of the World Cup.
Truly incredible.
Yep. And worthy winner of the player of the tournament. And, of course, Kylian Mbappe, worthy winner of the Golden Boot.
But
and Emiliano Martinez, clearly the goalkeeper of the tournament. That rarely happens.
No, he in the biggest moments, he stood up for his side. And that's my thing about goalkeepers. And there's a small win for Arsenal because we formed him and we nurtured him. But the thing about it is that
he has got better.
He has got so much better
since you left.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that a lot of goalkeepers, I kind of just want you to do all the basics right. But he does all the basics right, but he does the spectacular, which is because that Gareth Cole save was the best I'd seen it in the tournament.
That's the save of the tournament.
And then the one, I forget the young French player's name who got the volley just before it was the end of the second period of extra time.
Tchouameni?
Tchouameni, yeah.
Yep.
Who, honestly, when he came on as a sub, he did a really great job. That save also, I could
Didn't
not...
he score the goal that beat England, effectively?
Yes. But that save from... It's the composure to know that you need to... The composure and bravery and just vision.
Focus.
It's just so focused
Totally.
on this is the task. And I think the reason he fits that Argentina squad so much is he's had to fight and work so hard to get his career to where it is. And he understands that and wanted to win for Messi, because you can see in all
did.
In the Copa America, the dedication he has, that squad, he's a truly incredible player.
Can we just pause for a moment and take on board the coach, the manager of Argentina, and think for a moment? They all talk about the youngest, right, to reach such a claim. We should also mention he was the cheapest.
Yeah.
The Argentinian Federation picked him because he cost almost nothing, and he was like, "Let's get him in here.
But he understood the task.
But you're right. I actually think they underestimated him.
Yeah.
And he quickly found out who the players were.
I think, I can't remember, I don't know if it was on the SBS broadcast that they said it, but spoke about how as soon as he came in, he said, guys, Messi is our best player.
Correct.
We are going to construct the team around him. And that's the smartest thing they've ever done, because for so many years we saw Argentina trying to figure out the Dybala and Messi situation. How are we going to play? What are we going to do? And they've stumbled at so many hurdles, losing to Chile in the Copa America finals, but they're so united now when they understand the task. But not only are they fighting for fighting for that one goal, they were tactically amazing.
Well, I cannot argue with anything that you've said, because look, they've won the Copa America in the most difficult environment and atmosphere, and they beat a fantastic Brazilian side. And here they are. They lose the first game of the tournament against Saudi Arabia, and everyone goes, shock, awe, and they still tighten up, keep getting better. They had their moment there when Garanqual just put a big question mark.
And you saw the relief on those players' faces when that save
happened. And the rest was just magnificent.
Yeah.
Look, what is fantastic is Messi performed in the first half, the second half, and in extra time, and then stepped up first and took the penalties. I didn't see Kylian Mbappe for about 50 minutes.
That's because Argentina
closed the door on him
and essentially limited him. But I think that speaks to the quality of Kylian Mbappe, the fact that he wasn't disheartened by that. And in the second half, and I think the Camavinga substitution and the Kingsley Coman substitution
made huge difference.
Really big differences, because they were determined. Because Camavinga, we've seen him in the Champions League be a massive turning point for Real Madrid in really big matches. They opened it up, and I think almost for a split second, Argentina relaxed. Because when you're 2-0 up and you're playing at such high quality...
I still reckon 2-0 is the worst score in football.
Because as soon as that penalty happened, you freak out and you're like, wait, do we still go forward?
So did their fans. So did their fans, who had been magnificent.
Oh, absolutely.
From the opening. And in fact, they've been great throughout the entire... Can you imagine how much those fans have paid to travel from one end of the world? And it's almost the end. If you thought Australia was far enough away, Argentina, to go from Buenos Aires to Qatar to Doha.
Now they all know how we feel when we're going around.
Yeah, exactly. The whole world now understands that if you want to travel the globe, you've got to be a long-haul traveller.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing they've learned too in this remarkable World Cup, they've finally discovered that the football is not in Europe.
No.
And the rest of when you talk, it's pointless talking about the world game and not including the world. And suddenly we've included Africa, and we've announced the Arab nations of the world. Morocco led them beautifully, and if they hadn't run out of players and stocks, they might have gone a little bit further. Can you imagine? They had so many injuries.
African, Moroccan football this year deserves a massive round of applause.
Huge.
And
the joy.
But the thing I really want to bring up is that the countries that don't have the resources in football like the South Americans and the Europeans have should look at Morocco, because the development they've done not only in their men's game and their ability to attract players who were born outside of Morocco, but what they've done to their women's game, because they held held the African Cup of Nations for the women's in Morocco this year, and they came runners-up to South Africa in the final. But they've developed so well. And
have they qualified for the World Cup?
Yes.
So we'll see them here.
We'll see them here.
Oh, fantastic stuff.
It's remarkable, and it's lovely to see that the development of Moroccan football and African football as a whole, it's
off the charts.
Off the charts. And
fantastic stuff.
Seeing so much great football from all around the world in different styles, and that's what I appreciate about the World Cup. We see counter-attacking football, the sit-back type. We see everything, and that's really nice to see.
The voice you're listening to is Pokuah Frimpong, my new co-anchor, and we're doing this on FNR Thursdays between 5 and 6. And we'd love you to participate and let us know what sort of subjects you want us to cover. It's State of Our Football Nation. We talk about just about anything and everything. And we've got an opportunity today to catch up with a special contributor. He's a former FIFA referee. I know him as Chris Bambridge. He also does a lot of work behind the scenes for Football Victoria, because he looks and, I suppose, assesses the quality of work that the referees, and they train the next generation. And let me tell you, the thing you learn very, very quickly, and you see it at every level, if we don't have referees, you can't play football. And we have some of the best in the game, getting better all the time. We saw a young boy called Jared Gillett who earned his stripes, made his mistakes in the A-League, and now is officiating in the English Premier League and doing a fine job and just getting better and better and better. So Chris Bambridge will be joining us very, very shortly on FNR. Something else that we need to talk about, it's been an incredibly sad week in terms of the A-League. There was an incident last Saturday that we can't wash over or run away from. We have to address it. And it will be addressed because the potential damage is infinite. So understand this. The APL that has drawn so much criticism over the last few days for a number of different things needs to make some serious statements. Football Australia, I see, has come on board as the overarching entity that looks after the game, and they've said they're not going to tolerate any of this. We understand, too, that the hierarchy at Melbourne Victory understand the enormity of what they have to do. Look, they're not going to run away. They have some important announcements that need to come out. There's a show cause notice that's been served to them by the APL and Football Australia. They have to answer that. Indeed, they answered that yesterday morning. We haven't heard too much about it, but we will, because you can't push this under the rug. This is something that everyone's going to see and everyone has to participate on. But we need to say something too. There's been an element in this game for far too long, and we've not let it reside there, but we haven't done enough to get rid of it. And I'm not talking about the fans. The fans have been magnificent, and they've showcased their worth at all the live sites right across Australia for the World Cup. And let me tell you, those very same fans will be standing ready and shoulder to shoulder when the Women's World Cup, inside 6 months, comes down under, and we share it with New Zealand. So we're going to see some fantastic football. But there is an element. It's hardcore. They're not fans in any stretch of the imagination. They are anarchists or hooligans, and we have to basically throw the book at them. The law and whatever it can do must do it. I've understood that 3 or 4 have come forward already of the nearly 80, 90. Some are saying there are as many as 150 on the ground. There may well have been a spillage that saw 150 people enter the ground, but I think the actions of probably about 50 are the ones that the police and others are addressing or need to address. Importantly, there was more than $150,000 damage done to the ground. That's the people's ground. It's not, anybody else's ground. The state government, under the auspices of its position, runs the ground, but it's the people's ground. The people of Victoria own Amy Park. So anytime you damage it, it's an assault against the people of Victoria. So, there were people hurt. a cameraman was hurt. That should never happen.
Security
Anyone
guard.
on work, a number of security men and women were hurt. You cannot do that. They're professionals. They've gone to do a job to make the game safer for everyone, and they've been involved in this. And of course, there was a player involved.
And referee Alex King.
And Alex King, who I thought was tremendous. I want to talk to Chris Bambridge about Alex's actions, about the fact that he stood there between him and some of these hooligans, and they copped it. Both Alex King and both the keeper, Tom Glover, got hurt. Now, yes, some people are saying, there were mitigating circumstances. When you commit assault, there is no such thing as mitigating circumstances. Yeah, and if you wanted to make some noise out of the social media commentary that was running all week about this decision by the APL to take an amount of money from the New South Wales major events team so they could showcase their grand finals for the next 3 years, that's fine. You've got plenty of time to complain and I understand protest. And I was of the opinion that we were going to see a mass protest at Amy Park on Saturday, 20 minutes, and they were going to walk.
Yeah.
Problem was a goal came before the 20-minute mark. And then this ugly incident that needs to be addressed and is being addressed as we speak. So Chris Bambridge, I'll get my mouth around working eventually, is our special guest, and he'll be joining us in just a moment. Something else we're going to talk about, some of the outstanding action, some of the upsets we've seen in the Liberty W League that I didn't see coming. I did not see Melbourne City falling foul of Western United, but they did. Western United, in their inaugural season in the women's, are doing a tremendous job.
They've beaten 3 of last year's 4 finalists.
Why are you smiling while you say
Because
that?
I think it's so incredible.
I know.
And Forza MPL Victoria is what I'm saying. I'm very happy for MPL Victoria and the players involved.
I can tell, Pokuah. I can tell. All right, how far away are we from catching up with Chris?
It shouldn't be too long, but
Okay.
do you want to take a quick break, George?
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back on the other end, former FIFA referee and a man who's still serving the game long after he left the pitch, Chris Bambridge, to join us on State of Our Football Nation on FNR.
Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network.
Let's go from the top with the intro.
Yeah, I'll do the intro again. Here we go.
I'm sorry, I don't know this young lady's name. I
It's
apologise.
Pokuah.
Pokuah.
P-O-K. On FNR. Another episode, George Tanikian joined by Pokuah Frimpong in the studios at Docklands of Football Nation Radio, and we've got a special guest. We've been telling you about him, a former FIFA referee, but these days he hasn't given away the whistle, he hasn't given away the boots. I think he may have lost them in a fire. But the truth of the matter is he's still serving the game that he loves and has done for an awful long time, looking after young referees and the next generation of referees and how we can help them to do what they do and make them better. His name is Chris Bambridge. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Thank you very much, guys. Pleasure to be with you.
And compliments of the season. We need to touch on something that happened on Saturday at Amy Park. I'm sure many of you football fans and supporters of the game will know what's happened. What did you make of it from your perspective, Chris?
Well, I was thoroughly enjoyed the game until all that happened. the behaviour to me was deplorable. And if I may, I just think those that are responsible need to be identified. I know some of them are. And there needs to be not only bans and fines and all those sorts of things that go with it, because that's not my area. But I think the individuals themselves need some criminal charges to be brought against them. And the active group at Victory, and I've supported Victory and City all my life because I'm neutral, but they really need to be dealt with. But I was absolutely horrified by what I saw.
I thought Alex King was remarkable in that he put himself in harm's way. He should never have done that. You should never have to put yourself in harm's way, but he did. I think he's one of the best referees we have in the A-League, and he's emerged over the last couple of years, especially with Jared Gillett's move to the EPL, which would have given you a great bit of joy. You would have been delighted to see his progress.
Yeah. I was part of the team that got him to that position. I'm very proud of the young man. But look, I agree with you. For me, the last 2 seasons, and this is just my opinion, Alex King has been the best referee in the A-League, without a doubt. He's calm, he's cool, he lets the game go. He has great communication skills, which is the be-all and end-all of refereeing, apart from knowing the laws of the game, obviously. But on Saturday, I agree with you that I thought he did well in protecting the City goalkeeper. However, if I want to be super critical, my first
Let's be constructive.
Yep, my first instinct to him would be get out of there. Get out of there at all costs. Take the goalkeeper with you, and anyone else who's running towards that end of the field from a player's perspective, put them in the centre circle and leave them there and let security deal with it.
So you say straight away, suspend play?
Yes.
Okay, so suspend play would have been your first call, and then you would have run to the officials by the sidelines and discuss what goes on, or you pull them straight off?
I'd have taken you personally. I would have, and people may disagree with this, I would have taken all the players into the centre circle.
Right.
Because there's no hint at that stage when a flare was thrown that the game was going to be abandoned in any way.
Sure.
It was only the aftermath of that. So, look, it will be a terrible but a wonderful learning experience for the guy. And that was one of the things, George, that we were taught. I know it's going back a long way, but in 1986, and nothing changes, the player's safety is paramount, and yours as a match official too. So you get as far away from any of those problems. I didn't have anything like that quite in Mexico. There were a couple of incidents where I remember the Brazilian referee actually taking 2 teams into the centre circle. Game was held up for 5 minutes while they got a dozen spectators off the field, and we all went on. So that would be my first and only, not criticism, but advice to Alex and any other referee that this happens to in the future, and God forbid it does.
What did you make of the fact that he put himself in that position there? It appears to me that he wanted to make sure that the players were right, and that especially Tom Glover, who may well have been the focus of some of those some of those hooligans' attention, was in his way under my care. That's the way I viewed it. I was impressed enormously, and then I realised that it had got out of hand, and I was so pleased to see others rushing to assist, and then of course getting everyone off the pitch. Once they got off the pitch, I was certain the game was over.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yes, I think I agree with you. Its first instinct is naturally to go and protect. I don't mean one of your own, but the people on the field of play, the players. Sure. But once it got down there, as I said, and the flare started or continued, and the fence was going down, for me, that's when he should have got hold of the guy. Even if, and I don't like referees touching players or players touching referees, but even if he got hold of his arm and run towards the centre so to get him away, that gives security for what there was. More opportunity and more space to deal with those people.
Over the years, I've seen Tony Boskovic, I've seen Dennis Vucinas, I've seen yourself and others make sure that the game was always in their control. And that to me is always the hallmark. It's like a goalkeeper in the penalty area. If he's more than just a shot stopper, you marvel at how he controls he or she controls the box. And that, to me, is the hallmark of a great keeper. And we saw a wonderful example of that. And, in fact, the young man who's been anointed as the Golden Glove winner, Emiliano Martinez from Aston Villa, he hasn't played for Aston Villa the way he played for Argentina, by the way, ref. That's amazing. That contribution from opening game right through to the end. And as Pokuah has said to me time and time again, quite simply for her, the save of the tournament for Argentina was when that young man who could be the next generation of superstar for Australia, young Garen Quoll, turned, spun, and hit the ball on the money in what should have been the corner. But the goalkeeper got in the way and pulled off a magnificent save.
Correct. And look, that happens, with all due respect, George, that happens with match officials too. We've seen some match officials in this World Cup that come from, shall we say, the lesser-known soccer nations of the world that have really performed so well. And that's like, referee, like Chris Beath has gone from A-League, which that's the best that we have, and that's it, to suddenly in the middle of these international games. And it lifts you as well. It takes you to a new level. Like you said, with this goalkeeper, it performs adequately at Villa, but for his country, that was something phenomenal.
I want to speak, since we are on the topic of referees, the refereeing in the World Cup final, I was quite pleased with it. I thought that the referee let the game flow, and I don't think we had any VAR decisions. And the thing I saw that was so impressive was I think Thuman, that dive at the end, to see that in real time, because to me, when I saw it, I thought, that's got to be a penalty. But that refereeing, how did you see that? Because I thought it was really well done in that final.
Well, I've put some comments on Facebook, rightly or wrongly. I thought, I was so complimented. I was so pleased for him. I thought he had a brilliant game. He stood for no nonsense when the players rushed at him, which they did on a lot of occasions. I think he found it difficult to get them away because there were so many, but he dealt with it very quickly. We all got on with the game, and I think at the end, one of the things that I think he deserves more than anything is respect for the job that he did. And I just thought he was brilliant. I really did. Yeah. No, I wish I'd have been in his place.
I was just going to say, you would have loved to have been there.
Yes.
On another level, what do we do with the incidents that we see of simulation? What do we do? How do we cut them out?
That is totally, George, the referee's responsibility. He has the laws of the game to abide by, and he must enforce the laws of the game. But they just don't. They seem to wave it away. He's falling down. It's all good. And because the game normally is still in motion, I mean, occasionally they go out for a goal kick or a corner or something, but because the game is in motion, they tend to just let it go on. And I don't believe we should. I mean, and I'll be honest, and I don't want to end on a critical note, but I've been critical of some of the referees in the NPL this year that have not taken the necessary action. And I can assure you that Michael in the referees department in FFV has come down like a ton of bricks on these guys. And they've learned the hard way, but one in particular, I saw him for a second time late in the season, and he was excellent. He learnt from the errors of his ways. So it's up to the referee. It's not up to the administrators. The referees need to control it at the time. And as I said before, with this crowding, they only need to do it a couple of times in the game. And you imagine a defender in attack feigning a foul or acting, simulating, and then going back and giving away a free kick in his own half of the field and getting sent off because he's already got a yellow card for a silly act at the other end. How devastating that would be for them. So
they won't do it. They wouldn't do it again.
Hands.
They wouldn't do it again.
That's right. No, it's in the referee's hands, guys.
Is it also incumbent on the stakeholders, the people who look after the referees, to support them, to make sure that the referees aren't going to be vilified, but they're going to be backed up? I mean, without backing, you're only as good as the last performance and the last decision.
Right. Yep. And look, as I said, Michael Fabian in particular, and Tony Pert to a certain extent, the two top guys in the federation are backing them. They're backing them. Like, I see a lot of comments on my assessment reports that Michael sends copies, obviously, to the referees so they can learn from them, where he puts positive encouragement on there, congratulates them for being, doing a good job. But by the same token, if they do err, they are told in no uncertain terms. And they are using that not as punishment, that's not the right word, but those that are not performing, it comes to grand final or finals times, some of them are not considered. It can be that close.
Got it.
Just a couple of, errors.
What are you making of our young women who are refereeing the game these days and the job that they're doing?
Can I be honest? I love women's football. I really do.
Well, you've got Pokuah beaming here from ear to ear.
I'll come to your question in a second, but may I make a statement first?
Go ahead.
We do not see simulation. A player goes down in a women's game. Generally, if they stay down, I recognise that they're hurt, so we stop. Normally, I would suggest to you, 99 times out of 100, they get up, rub their ankle, rub their head, rub their arm, whatever, and carry on with the game. And I think that's the best part of the game. From the refereeing point of view, we've got some very, very good young referees coming through Victoria. I know we've got Kate Jakovic at FIFA level, and we've got a couple of FIFA assistants. But I've seen an awful lot of young, and particularly assistant referees, who put their heart and soul into their job. Some of our male referees, because of attitude, have a problem with running a line. But the females just don't seem to have that. I don't know what it is. And they are very protective of one another. And very quickly, if I may, I had a game earlier in the season where one of the assistant referees had a car accident on the way to the ground. The way that the other three officials protected her, looked after her, I was in the dressing room as the assessor. They wanted to make sure she was right to go out. One even offered to take her place on the line. You can be fourth official. You can relax and get you. No. I've come here. I've earned my place. I'm going to do it.
Fantastic.
I thought that was admirable. And my report reflected that to Michael.
Well, we've got a women's World Cup coming up. How many of these young women are we going to see getting the anointment, getting the opportunity to be appointed to participate and play a role?
Well, you'll obviously get your FIFA referees. The others, I'm not quite sure. We don't have any real say in who is appointed to a FIFA tournament. We can put suggestions and whatever we like, but ultimately it's FIFA's decision and the referees committee of FIFA's decision. I'd like to say we can see a few more of the young ones there in an assistant, but I don't think so. I think it will be all FIFA referees.
I see. Now, you've been a FIFA referee. As I said, we've touched on some of the others, people like Dennis Vucinas and Tony Boskovic, who was quite a character. I remember Tony refereeing, because I'm a New South Wales boy, I saw him time and time again. But we've also seen the work that both of you and Dennis have done, and especially as FIFA referees. It's a huge thrill. It's you're representing your country, but it's also more than that, isn't it? It's the legacy that you leave with every game that you do.
Well, I hope so, George. And I can remember, you probably remember Stuart Mellings, another FIFA referee.
Another one I forgot. Yes,
I had lunch with him about a month ago, and we just got talking about old times, and what was supposed to be an hour turned out to be a tea as well as lunch. Anyway, part of that was reminiscing, but we were saying at the time, and he actually said to me, when you do referees courses or you're talking to referees, do you tell them what you did? And I said, no, I don't, Stuart. Most of them weren't born, when I refereed. And he said, you're wrong. You're wrong. You should tell them you achieved the dream, and here's how you achieved the dream too.
Yeah,
I don't do. Someone asked me, I'm happy to talk, but I don't go out and deliberately do that. But I think now I'm learning, and I'm speaking to Stuart, who's still around. He's I think his early 80s, and doing quite well. So
good on him.
It's leaving a legacy. You're quite right, and I hope that some of us have done that.
For Pokuah's sake, your highlight as a referee?
I was just about to ask that. FIFA
highlight referee.
Look, Can I tell you I've got two? One, obviously, is being appointed to the World Cup in '86. That's the ultimate goal. But on a personal note, I was told after the World Cup by a gentleman by the name of Sepp Blatter, who was the secretary at the time. He saw me leaving Mexico to go home, and he said, did anyone ever tell you how well you did here? And I said, no, and they don't. Now I think they do. And he said, the game that you did in the opening round, your mark more than qualified you for the quarterfinal of a World Cup. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. He said, but you didn't get it. And you'll never get it because you come from the wrong part of the world. Now, that was devastating. I only told two people that, my wife and the dear late George Wallace. I've told nobody else that, because that would just put a hammer on anything. But my personal highest achievement was in '85. I went to the first ever under-17 World Cup, and I ended up refereeing the final, which was magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And sometime I'm happy to sit and talk to you and tell you about my experiences that day, because that was one out of the box.
Now, tell me something. Who was the star in that game for you?
Me.
That's a good answer.
Oh, fantastic. Well done.
It was actually in those days, it was West Germany versus Nigeria. And I had the only send-off in the tournament in the final.
Wow.
And Nigeria won. So it was wonderful, absolutely. And the atmosphere, 86,000 people in Shanghai, and absolutely brilliant. And can I just tell you a secret? Don't tell anyone this.
No, I won't.
I went onto the ground. I stood there with my arms by my side. They started the German national anthem, and I suddenly realized I hadn't got a whistle.
Oh, gee.
So I said one of the FIFA officials on the running track told him where to find it. It's the longest delay in the toss of the coin and the kickoff you've ever seen in your life.
Wow.
Chris Bambridge has been our special guest on FNR's State of Our Football Nation, not only reminiscing, but giving us a sense of some of the things that we can address and we need to address, and also remarking on the performance of Alex King, who he has observed over the last 2 years has become quite possibly the best referee in the A-League, and on his way to represent Australia, as the tournaments, open up in Asia and others. I wonder, Chris, if that comment by Blatter has well and truly, vanished, and we're likely to see more and more referees from everywhere, including Oceania, being given the opportunity to referee showcase games, quite possibly a World Cup final.
I mean, we're going back 30 years then, when it was a very much a closed shop. It has expanded. We've seen Australian referees at the last 4 World Cups now, I think.
Yep.
And as you said, there was a representative, Mr. Conker from New Zealand, from Oceania, in this tournament. So, yes, it is expanded, and it's expanding into the African nations too. And there are some brilliant referees in the African nations. Seriously.
And you've got to agree with us, surely, the emergence of the African nations and the emergence of the Arab world has truly, if everyone's talking about the game global, uniting the world, well, there's been no better example than what we've seen in Qatar.
Exactly. It's been
exhilarating.
I think, just quickly, we were all very apprehensive about A, the way it was given to them, which we won't talk about, and B, what it was going to be like. And I think they did forget the peripheral stuff. Let's just talk about the football. I thought they did a magnificent job. The presentation was excellent. The pitch at the grand final probably wasn't up to scratch. But apart from that, I thought they did a magnificent job. They should be very proud.
I'm sure, though, there will be an awful lot of pressure to address some of those things that needed to be addressed beforehand, and I'm hoping that the weight of the world's expectations, they feel that pressure and do something. Not say they do it, but actually do it. And if that's the case, then we've all learned.
I'll say this, George. I think the only thing we're going to miss from this World Cup is that the fact that it's in one country. because it's really exciting for 2026 to be in 3 countries. That's a lot of travel and it's a lot of work to be going from Mexico to Canada
I can see you, Pokuah, putting your hand up to be part of the commentary team and saying, oh, gee, I've got Canada tomorrow, and then on Sunday I've got Mexico. Good luck to you and your frequent flyer points. Chris, go.
Can I also quickly pay a great comment to the wonderful Mr. Tyler?
Martin.
The commentator.
Yeah.
Martin Tyler. He is, there's nothing that compares with him, in my opinion, in any type of sports commentary.
Do you know, I for a long, long time have been a Martin Tyler fan, but just over the last couple of years, the young voice or the voice that I've enjoyed immensely, and it's probably because of the way he creates the pictures that enhance the pictures that we see. And I'm talking about the Englishman Peter Drury, who does an awful lot of commentary for the EPL. Yeah. And there is something that he brings to the game that quite possibly we heard in the very early days of Martin's career and quite possibly in his heyday. And I think he's telling a different story these days. I think now he's our friend, he's our learned colleague, and he's taking us through it, whereas Peter is selling it slightly differently. And maybe to the younger audience, he's resonating a little bit more with them. But I cannot leave the broadcast opportunity with you and commend you on picking up on Martin Tyler and his contribution to the game, which has been immense.
Yeah, certainly.
Well done. As has, can we just say, Craig Foster, who raised a few hackles with some people because he is the activist, in the footballer, but he also speaks, I suppose, with the ghosts of Johnny Warren and Les Murray. He reminds us yet again that they told us so, that the world was coming together and the world game was stretching itself and going to even new federations. And today the World Cup in Qatar, as you said, forgetting the peripherals, when you look at what it has done, close to 5 billion people can say that they watched quite possibly the greatest final they've seen. And that is a worthy thing to say. And what a memory to leave us with until 2026.
Yeah.
And good luck with your future commentary, young lady.
Thank you.
She's got a World Cup coming up real soon. And I'm hoping that she's part of that team that calls the first grand final in the new Liberty W League. Wouldn't that be great?
It'd be very, very, very
You got some work to do, huh?
Just
ring Chris whenever you need anything to know, and he'll give you the update. Chris, thank you so very much for joining us and giving us your time. Chris Bambridge.
Yes, it's been a great pleasure, and a Merry Christmas to both of you and your families.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
All the best. Former FIFA referee, Chris Bambridge, the man who still loves the game so much, still contributing, still helping the next tier of referees. There you go. Did you enjoy that?
I absolutely did. I love learning, George, as you know.
I do.
I feel like I learn a lot every time I come on this show.
Well, it's like going to a history lesson occasionally and opening up the front page and going, oh, my God, it's him, Chris Bambridge.
I was fascinated by the fact that Chris refereed that under-17. So I had to Google it, and I couldn't believe that Australia finished top of their group above West Germany in that tournament.
There you go.
Got out in that in the quarterfinals, which is pretty cool.
The difference was West Germany went on with it.
Yeah.
and we're still learning to get on with it.
Yeah.
It's almost time for us to say good evening or goodbye or good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time you listen to the podcast. I know it's on between 5 and 6, but, there are so many people these days who use devices very differently.
That is true.
And we make this almost like a podcast so they can use it when they're gone for a walk, when they're making breakfast, or maybe when they're de-stressing late in the evening and thinking, what did Pokuah and George have to say on State of Our Football Nation? Anyway, until next week, compliments of the season to you all. May the holidays be good for you. Stay safe, and please just remember, if a lot of people have been saying that the game is at its lowest point, the thing worth reflecting on is this. When you get so low, there's only one way, and that's up from now on. So we've got a chance to bring the game together. We've got a chance to unite the game in a fashion that we haven't had to do because people tend to be very parochial. Well, time to think as one. Time to think as Australians, one and all, and to remember and remind ourselves that we're 5-6 months away from having a World Cup on our doorstep when we really have to be on our best behaviour. Thanks for joining us. Until next week.